Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio. And before we get into this one, I just want to, right out the gate, give you a content warning for just general grossness, like all around. Misogyny, unhealthy body images, unhealthy body stereotypes, self-harming behavior, not great uses of cosmetic surgery, body dysmorphia, suicide, and violence. We're not going to go too in-depth on any of those things, but they are throughout. So this is, I was telling Samantha, anytime you talk about incels, you know it's going to be rough.
Right.
This is one of the, I don't think this is actually a healthy thing, but it's one of the few episodes I've had to stop researching. And it's short because it just like physically made me feel sick. You are not going to, I had to like read a bunch of stuff just to get these facts that just were miserable. But here we are. I also want to give 2 disclaimers at the top. I feel like a lot of what I read about this, there's a lot of nuance when it comes to getting cosmetic surgery. That's often lost, I think. And it is really hard to untangle. It's really hard to untangle why you want something. There's been so much research around like how filters impact how people are seen and how they want to be seen, body dysmorphia in general when it comes to cosmetic surgery. But if you're coming from a healthy space and you know what you want, you're a consenting adult, cosmetic surgery, no judgment. Like, it's just complicated because of so much of the messaging we get. Even in cosmetic surgery ads that make it feel very toxic, make it feel very erase your age, achieve this one body type that is usually kind of a white European body type. So it's complicated, is what I'm saying. It's nuanced, and I think a lot of that is lost in this conversation. Also, a lot of the people who try to defend what we're talking about, which is incels getting a specific type of cosmetic surgery, bring trans people into the conversation and like masculization, feminization surgery. Just don't. That's not the same thing. We're going to talk about that later. It's not the same thing. But also there is conversation within the trans community that I am not qualified to speak on about that. But I just want to make note of it, that is the thing. Also, there's a huge conversation that happens anytime something comes out about incels where it's like, are you giving them a platform? Are you giving them sympathy? I think there's a difference between giving platform and sympathy versus just pointing out something that is terrible that is happening that we should talk about. Like being aware of how toxic this is.
Also, we need to know. It's kind of that whole level of like when we talked about crime podcasts and about why women are fascinated. It's not, and it's gotten toxic. Don't get me wrong. There's always toxic levels to everything. But there is this level of like, you need to be aware of what is happening. When we talked about the Chad fishing, they're doing a lot lately. It feels like they're doing a lot. And I think a part of that is because people are now kind of jaded by it and just lets them be and makes them a joke and moves on, which is a mistake because we know people get hurt.
Yes.
So like the big conversation is, it's not giving them a platform. It's making sure we are aware because we need to know. Because if we don't, Andrew Tates of the world exist and come out as bigger and they actually profit and create a bigger circle. And that's dangerous.
Yes. Yes. I think like there's so much in this conversation we're about to have that is disturbing in terms of so much of the stuff we've internalized and these incels have internalized and use it to commit violent acts. They are dangerous, violent people. And there's like multiple examples of it. So it is important that we know that we talk about these things. So I was at the beach, listeners. I was at the beach. This is how the idea came to me. I was trying to write fan fiction, which thank you to all my friends who were with me for like really supporting me and giving me ideas.
Yeah.
Also telling me how CPR currently works. Appreciate it. But we were talking about, I was trying to describe a character and I was trying to describe his chin. And I was like, there is a word that goes, like typically goes with chin. And I can't think of it. And I was like asking them for help. And one of my friends was like, that's a big incel thing, right? Like this kind of fixation on the chin. And I did not know that, even though I think we probably did talk about it. We have done an episode on incels before. We did Chad fishing. I think we've done some other adjacent things. I didn't know that. Either I'd purposefully like shot it out of my brain,
right,
or we didn't talk about it. Could be either. But yeah, she was like, yeah, no, it's a huge thing. And that's how the rabbit hole started. And here we all are. She also, I love this. She just said so flippantly, these dudes don't know what women want. It's like, yeah,
not wrong.
Not wrong at all. But okay, so I went on this rabbit hole. And the chin is, yes, a huge point of discussion in the incel community. If you somehow haven't heard of it, that is involuntary celibate community. And I want to be 1000% clear here. It is really a gross, unhealthy discussion. No surprise. That is soaked with layers of ableism, racism, sexism, and just unhealthy ideas and fixations around beauty. There are very specific measurements for the chin that separates the incel from the Chad. And if you remember from our incel episode, the Chad is like your traditional hot guy that all the women are going for. That's the simplest way to put it, that they are not. And so incels / non-Chads despise Chads for this, but they also often believe that being a Chad would greatly improve their lives. So this has involved a vast array of things like skincare, bodybuilding, taking steroids, stretching their penises, mewing, which is building your masseter muscles by chewing hard things and is named after the 2 British orthodontists who hypothesized this method. And that's to make your jaw more prominent. And more recently, cosmetic surgery. So from The Cut, here's a quote. Cosmetic surgery among people who identify as male rose 325% between 1997 and 2015 in the US, according to the American Society for Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. And also just another note here, that isn't all incels. And there is a lot of toxic stuff around body types, masculine or feminine, anything in between, that is going on in that as well. And also just, healthy, consenting, I want to do this. But to be clear, there's a lot more going on in that statistic than incels are doing this. But it has led to some cosmetic surgeons, especially those that perform things like jaw surgery or testicle implants or shoulder broadening or shoulder, what would that be called? Making them smaller, to becoming celebrities in the incel world, sometimes to the surprise of the cosmetic surgeon. In toxic incel online spaces, the joke, in heavy quotes, is that the only options for an incel are suicide or cosmetic surgery, and that the only thing keeping a non-Chad from being a Chad is a few millimeters of bone. So there are things like Jazzercise 2, and this is a quote from Vice. Jazzercise is a patent-pending silicone ball that users can chew on systematically in order to exercise their masseter muscle, which connects the lower jaw to the cheekbones and is most prominent below the ears, where the jaw meets the neck. The reasoning goes that an active masseter muscle is a thicker masseter muscle, and a thicker masseter muscle makes for a more defined masculine jawline. This is a different podcast, but there is some purported benefits of this and history around the human jaw and soft foods and the intro of the fork and knife. But this is, that's a different podcast. I was reading this whole paper about it. I was like, whoa, no, this is not for today. Not for today. Some expect cosmetic surgery to completely change their life for the better. Like literally will write in forums, if I could get this, I will be a different person. Everyone will love me. I'll get all the women, all the hot women. While others get angry when people do treat them differently after surgery, or they feel that that's their perception, that people treat them differently after surgery. Like it proves their point. Like, see, I got this and now you're being nice to me, that kind of thing. Here's a quote from ABC in Australia. Feminist writer Jessica Valenti has described, incels are not a community of sad men that reflect a societal problem with loneliness. They are a community of violent misogynists that reflect a societal problem with sexism and sexual entitlement. And here's a quote from HuffPo. Males tend to take rejection as a challenge to their masculinity or an insult to their perceived place in the social hierarchy. Women are likely to feel emotionally hurt by rejection and to assume that there is something lacking in them that warranted the rejection. According to Suzanne Dej-White, the chair of Northern Illinois University's Department of Counseling, women are encouraged to get over it, but men often feel the need to get even. So I do think this is an important nuance of when we're speaking specifically about incels and not men who might have body dysmorphia but are not going to be violent towards women or anybody. Just be clear. Because, yeah, reminder, incels are violent and dangerous. They have killed, harmed, assaulted, and generally punished and harassed people, mostly women. Here is, an upsetting rundown about it. Quote, Elliot Rodger, a 22-year-old self-proclaimed incel who killed himself and 6 other people in 2014, is hailed as an inspiration in incel forums. The day before his rampage in Isla Vista, California, he uploaded a video to YouTube titled Retribution, which detailed his plan to slaughter every spoiled, stuck-up blonde slut he could find in a nearby sorority house. If I can't have you girls, I will destroy you, he said in the video. You will finally see that I am, in truth, the superior one, the true alpha male. Posts from men who say they dream of going ER, a reference to Rodger's attack, are common in incel and Looksmax forums. Since his killings, there have been other similar attacks, including one in April this year, when a man rammed a van into a crowd of pedestrians in Toronto, killing 8 women and 2 men. The suspect, 25-year-old Alec Manassian, wrote a post on Facebook shortly before the massacre declaring the incel rebellion has already begun and vowing to overthrow all the Chads and Stacys, an incel reference to good-looking men and women. After a gunman killed a woman and a 10-year-old girl this Sunday in Toronto, incel message boards lit up with excitement that it was possibly the work of a fellow incel. Police have yet to identify a motive. Anders Breivik, a far-right Norwegian terrorist who killed 77 people in 2011 when he was 32, also expressed violent misogyny and obsessed over his looks, reportedly undergoing cosmetic surgery on his forehead, nose, chin before the attack. Other recent mass murders held up as misogynist heroes by incel communities include George Sodini, who killed 3 people and himself in a 2009 attack at a women's aerobic class in Pennsylvania, Sung Hui Chao, who killed 32 people in Virginia in 2007 after reportedly stalking 2 women, and Marc Le Pen, who separated male and female students at a Montreal engineering school in 1989 and opened fire, killing 14 women. By comparison, 0 women have gone on murderous rampages inspired by rejection. Here is an example of a post you will find in one of these forums about the women that they want. Here's a quote. Short stature, but high E features, like relatively big lips, big titties, fat ass, quiet, doesn't ever contradict me, listens to me vent and tells me I'm right, which I am. Gives amazing blowjobs. Cooks, cleans up after me. Not white, but light skin. Dark hair is fine, but she should dye it a lighter color. Pretty face because that matters more than anything. Only dresses modestly out of the house. Disparages men who I dislike and keeps away from my friends in order to appear as a non-hypergamous as possible because she knows that if I ever get a whiff of a cheating whore, I will end her. Also, occasional threesomes with other women, and she lets me cheat, but just doesn't say anything because she knows I need to get my rocks off. Horrible.
I'm sorry, I'm laughing because they're like, and no women will have me.
Exactly.
Bro.
Exactly, Samantha.
It's just comical at this point.
oh gosh, it's like
Uh,
horrific, and so you can't see how ridiculous this, like, why would no one want to do this? I don't understand. Like,
I don't understand. Oh,
ugh.
oh,
And on top of that, there's this hypocrisy of judging ugly and worse women getting cosmetic surgery or on their looks, at doing anything for their looks at all. And then themselves whining that there's more of a stigma for men to get cosmetic surgery, which again, may be true, but that can be true while not judging everyone else and being like, you're wrong for doing it. Also, stop judging me for doing it.
right. They're part of the problem why people are being judged to begin with. So
Exactly.
yeah, no.
They're like furious that everything is looks based, but they're
But being looks
doing
based.
the thing. Here's another quote from ABC Australia. Women have endured discrimination, vilification, and humiliation based on our appearances since pretty much forever. And we get this regardless of whether we are not #hot or not. Yet amazingly enough, most of us manage to refrain from driving our vans into innocent Canadians, joining sisterly support groups to egg each other on to mass murder, boasting about lacing the office Tim Tams with our bodily fluids, and so on. And this article does acknowledge that there are studied benefits to being traditionally, again, also read largely white European, beautiful. But there are pitfalls too, especially for women. But there has been study into that. But as they continue, quote, nowhere in the Declaration of Human Rights does it mention anything about looking like Rihanna. This is a stroke of genetic luck, a freak privilege, not a right to which we're entitled. Then there's the bizarre incel conviction that the only thing holding them back from having relationships with women are their average looks, as opposed to the fact that they loathe us with a raging fury.
Right.
To your point.
Yes.
Yes, and then there's like horrific things they say in these forums around corrective rape, around reverse rape, which is basically they're not having any sex, reverse rape. But they're dangerous. It's dangerous. It's destructive. It's toxic. It's gross. And it's so difficult to untangle a lot of this because in 2023, another thing, TikTok went viral of an incel advising other incels to hit themselves in the face with a hammer. I don't, it's a weird spot to be in where I feel no sympathy for this fellow, but that's unhealthy. Like,
right.
Look at yourself.
Right.
That's unhealthy.
I'm still trying to understand with all the advancements in education, awareness, that's accessible now. Like you can Google things and YouTube's, and I know there's also bad players, but like things like that. And then now the new borax recommendations. Have you heard of this, Anney? You spaced our face. They are, I'm going to put this in quotes, health gurus, we'll say it like that, are, and that makes me sad because the word guru has a specific meaning that is not a whitewash, but we'll just go with that for now, are telling people they need borax because there is like boric acid, like there is a level that you're supposed to have naturally. So their response is, yeah, chemicals. Let me do that. Same way with like the pods as well as ivermectin, like all of these things are like, this is not smart. Please listen to doctors, but they don't want to for some odd reason. Because they really think that this is going to advance them. That's not going to turn their health absolutely wrecked. Like, it's just like, why are we listening? Why are you hitting yourself with a hammer, sir? That's not going to make you better. Guarantee.
Right. And that was one of the big things that I took away was sort of going back to that point that this article made was a lot of these people do experience body dysmorphia, and that is the thing we should talk about. But again, women do, trans people do, non-binary people do, and they don't kill. Like,
others.
There's a difference between, yes, we should deal with body dysmorphia and feeling sympathy around that, and someone taking that, using it as an excuse for that's why I killed people or made their lives miserable.
Right.
That's different.
odd disconnect that there's no reasoning. There will never be reasoning until they themselves realize what the main problem is, and that could never happen. Let's just be real honest, because when we talk about like narcissism and how many men develop and what that looks like, because it's that level of like, I'm not the problem, you're the problem.
Yeah.
And then jumping ahead to making it a problem. Like, again, that odd message I got from the dude that immediately didn't say, hi, I'm so-and-so. It literally says, I'm messaging you knowing that you hate Asian men and probably have never dated me. That's the first thing I got. And I was like, well, I'm scared now. So block. Like, that's like that immediate jump of like, instead of being witty or funny or joking or anything else, or just saying hello, that's the response. Like, those other people, I may very well not respond because I don't think we're a match. I will look at your site and I won't match with you. So I'm like, I'm not going to. But I will hit a block button real quick and probably post a picture and be like, girls beware.
Well, and that's one of the most frustrating things about this too, is we talk about this all the time. I feel like especially in heteronormative spaces, dating has become so, women feel like they're being told to like gatekeep, protect themselves. They'd see what happens in things like this. And then men, some of them, many of them, not incels, feel like women are not going to go on dates with them. And it's just like this really toxic kind of self-fulfilling thing. I mean, rejection, hopefully men won't turn to incels, all men, after being rejected. But it's sad because I think like a lot of dating has become so, for women, very fear-based and very like, how can I keep myself safe? And maybe you would match with more people if you weren't concerned about that.
Right. Or taking tricks. This whole level of tricking women too.
Yes.
There's that whole other level of like, again, dating guy, get a girl this way type of,
like a pickup line.
Pickup dudes, all of that was such a fad that people believed this. And the realization is women are human. They're brains.
Human. Yes.
Guess what? We pick up on things too, and we know insincerity for the most part. And unless we're playing a game with you as you're playing a game with us, we're not interested in that. That will never be a thing from whomever you're looking for. Like that's going to be, whether it's like you're finding a match because you're trying to find someone on like economic level, economic status, those tricks don't work. Like if you don't have it to begin with, you're not going to win. Or you're not going to be dateable for them.
Right. And again, that like level of hypocrisy of she has to look this certain way. I shouldn't have to look this certain way. She has to do these certain things. I shouldn't have to do those certain things. I can cheat and do whatever. She can't. If I get a whiff of it, I will kill her.
Threatening murder. Yeah. And by the way, those are not empty threats. We know this. We know that the majority of women who are murdered are by their partner. Like we know femicide is a thing based on the fact that you feel rejected, angry, or hurt and have a right to a woman.
Yes, like an object and not a person.
Right.
And another thing that really infuriated me doing this research is like a handful of the men who like left the forums, who weren't like active in the incel community anymore. Reporters will track down, and they have a woman and they're dating and a partner and they seem happy, and they'll beg the reporter like, please don't tell her.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of that.
You were so willing to encourage all of this violence, real violence we have seen. You were supportive of it. You hated women. Now you've found someone and you are just going to try to sweep all of that away.
Right. And hope that no one finds out because you know how wrong it is. Actually, recently I just watched a TikTok, you're welcome, in which a woman was talking to a group of dudes, and it was you could tell they're teenagers, like definitely under 21. All of them were wearing fun little plates with smiley faces on it and talking about how much they loved Andrew Tate and felt like he was right about women. And they were talking about the superiority of men. But as teenage boys, they knew that this was going to scar them, but they still want to follow that line. And we know this is the, like, They were one step ahead. I'll give them that. Like previously in the generations before where they were like, I'm behind the screen. They'll never know. And realizing, oh, wait, they do know.
Mm-hmm.
And guarantee they'll still be able to figure it out. People will still be able to figure out who these boys were. But the fact is, like, they know they're doing something wrong and something that's going to damage them. But yet, so they know. Even when they, before however angry they are, that this is a bad thing.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like, then,
yeah.
Why do you think you deserve good things?
Right. Right. It's like a thing they feel like they have to hide, but are so proud of secretly.
Right.
It's a very bizarre, very strange, toxic thing.
It's just my opinion. Yeah, and it's the right opinion, but I can't show my face.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. That always, anytime someone's like, you can't talk about this, I've done nothing wrong, but we must never raise some eyebrows at that.
I'm also alpha, but I'm also scared.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh, well, I'm sure we'll come back to this because this is like but one facet of the things I found in this rabbit hole. And it is upsetting, but we need to talk about it. But that is it for today. Please, if you have any thoughts about this, any other topics we should research, I've drawn a breath because it'll be tough, but we should do it. Let us know. You can email us at stephanieandmomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at Mom Stuff Podcast or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff Mom Never Told You. We also have a TeePublic store and a book, audio book and a physical book that you can pre-order at stuffyoushouldreadbooks.com. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff I Never Told You is a production by iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.